Producer's Pride versus the cheapest feed I could pick up at my local feed store. We're going to compare price, we're going to compare nutrients, and we're going to compare ingredients. So, is it worth it for spending a little bit more? The answer actually ends up being yes for all categories. So let's jump into why, and I'll show you. So, I'm running low on the Producer's Pride. We're down to the end of it here. And just opened up some of this Kalmbach, and we're going to take a quick look at it visually, compare it, and then I've got the ingredients tags, and we'll compare ingredients and nutritional values, and kind of take a quick little side-by-side look at Producer's Pride, the cheapest that I can find at Tractor Supply, and then this Kalmbach is the cheapest that I could get from my local feed store. So I'm gonna flip the camera around so we can take a look at the granules or the pellets and kind of get a visual comparison here. Okay, so on the left is the Producer's Pride, on the right is the Kalmbach, and visually they're not very different, other than the Kalmbach looks like it might be a little bit brighter, but other than that I don't see any obvious difference between the two. So I decided to pick up some feed from the local feed store. One, I like to try and support local business. My family's always been big on that. My dad's a real big proponent of trying to support local mom and pops versus local or national chains, and so I try and follow in those footsteps. I think it's important to support your local business, your local economy, and also, regardless of this whole feedgate issue, like I said, I've got plenty of videos here showing that I don't have any issue with my egg production or the health of my chickens on the Producer's Pride, but Tractor Supply Company as a whole, they do have some iffy things that they've gotten themselves into recently, and their board is associated with certain companies that are doing questionable things, and so I want to try and step away from giving them my money and patronage in general. So decided to check out the local feed store, and I just went with, I didn't get the brand name when I went there. Just kind of went to the counter and told him I wanted some chicken feed, and he said, I've got an 18%, I've got a something, and we've got a premium, blah blah blah. So in the spirit of cheapest feed at Tractor Supply being the Producer's Pride versus cheapest feed at my local feed store, ended up being the Kalmbach 18%. So we're going to compare the Producer's Pride 16% and the Kalmbach 18%. So I've got the ingredients tags, or information tags from both. I'm going to put them up on the screen as full pictures, and then to make it easier, I've actually produced it on a spreadsheet so that it's really easy to read on your end and kind of follow along with. So let's break it down. Okay, so as you can see in front of you, obviously off rips is self-explanatory. It implies Producer's Pride is only a 16% protein versus Kalmbach is an 18% protein. But as we continue down the list, we look at the lysine, which is essential for egg production. Producer's Pride is 0.6% versus 1%. So Kalmbach has a higher percent there. And then methionine, which is also essential for egg production, 0.3 versus 0.38. So not much more, but still more. Crude fat, 2.5% versus 3%. That little bit of difference could really help, especially in the winter when the chickens are trying to put on a little extra fat layer to stay warm. The fiber, now we see the fiber in the Producer's Pride at 8%, whereas it's only 4.5% in the Kalmbach. And when you look into chicken fiber ingredients, you'll actually want that to be on a lower end than a higher end. Next we look at calcium, obviously essential for quality eggs and egg consumption. Calcium carbonate is a essential building block of eggshells, and it's going to be very similar. Both are between 3.4, but whereas Producer's Pride maxes out at 3.9, the Kalmbach maxes out at 4.4. Phosphorus is going to be another really close at 0.45 versus 0.5%. Salt is going to be less, which, another, we do want some sodium in the chicken's diet, but too much salt is not going to be good for them. And as you can see, it's between 0.25 and 0.65% for the Producer's Pride, plus they throw in some extra 0.15 to 0.23% sodium, versus the Kalmbach is 0.1 to 0.6. So, and then, side-by-side comparison, the Kalmbach clearly has the better nutritional value. And then if you continue to look down, I broke down the ingredients list. That's the complete list of ingredients from both products. Grain products are obviously grains. They're not going to tell us which ones, and that's probably because it's just going to depend on season, what they can get. But that's going to be your wheat, your oat, etc. Looking at the Kalmbach is all natural, so they've also got your plant protein products. So that's going to be things like soybeans and peas. Then they both have processed grain byproducts, and that's going to be things that were used in one industry and the solids are no longer needed, and they are a byproduct of that industry. So things like brewer's grains, the hops after they've been used and whatnot, it's still the whole flour or whatever, or grain, and they just used it for the fermentation, the flavor, and the solids can be dried and fed, or things like soybean meal. Like I said, you'll see calcium carbonate. That is a naturally occurring calcium found in things like limestone and is essential for egg production. Plant protein sources we've covered. Salt's pretty self-explanatory. The propionic acid is kind of a interesting one, and arguably a reason in and of itself to not use Producer's Pride. It is a preservative. It's a naturally occurring via bacteria, and these bacteria are found in anaerobic soil bacteria, also the metabolic bacteria of grazing animals like cows, and also in humans in our amino acid breakdown processes. But in feed, the way we obtain it to put it in feed is from petrochemicals, aka, oil-based, petroleum-based products, through chemical routes. So there's some, greenhouse gas questions, and just questions on whether or not you want to be feeding your animals or ingesting petroleum products. So that's certainly something to consider. Overall, the ingredients lists are fairly close. The only major difference is we're going to see that the Kalmbach has forage products. They've got more sulfates and like micronutrients, and then a wide array of fermented bacteria products and extracts, and those are going to be good for your chicken's gut health. So overall, just looking at a side-by-side comparison of nutrients, Kalmbach wins. Ingredients, the Kalmbach wins. And when you actually break down the pricing, I can get the Producer's Pride is about $14 at my Tractor Supply, and that gets me 40 pounds, so that's 35 cents a pound, versus $16 of the Kalmbach for 50 pounds, which actually makes it 32 cents, so 3 cents cheaper per pound. Not a lot of savings, but not very much more expensive. So spending that $2 extra allows me to A, support my local business, B, provide higher quality nutrients, higher quality ingredients, and technically save money. So it should last longer for a couple bucks more, and then, like I said, breakdown, it's a little bit cheaper. And then, of course, I'll still be feeding my kitchen scraps and as much live, healthy, living, fresh food as possible, because even with the Kalmbach being a higher quality ingredient, it looks overall to be a pretty good ingredient. Regardless, you could have a vitamin, essentially, that you take all the essential, take your multivitamin plus a couple little extra things, and you grind it down and then throw it in the oven so it's all dry, and then eat that, and it's everything you need. You're not gonna die, but I bet you'd still be hungry. And if offered some real food, something fresh and moist and flavorful, you would be pretty excited and happy about it. And for all the work that our chickens do for us, giving us eggs, meat, compost, companionship, friendship, don't they deserve at least some fresh food back? But regardless of that, that's obviously another conversation for another time. But there we go. There is our side-by-side comparison between the Producer's Pride and the Kalmbach. So at this point, as long as the girls don't show any signs of not liking it or having any issues with it, I'm probably going to switch to Kalmbach feed from my local feed store. So if you're curious about it, look it up. Kalmbach Feeds. It's out of Sandusky, Ohio. So if you're somewhere in that region, we're about a little over an hour away from Sandusky, Ohio. So that's pretty local feed to me. And supporting local industry as Kalmbach, and then my local feed store down the road. So there you go. That's my 2 cents. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know in the comments below. Anybody else using the Kalmbach? Like I said, I've heard it's really popular amongst the community. And so when I went, I had no idea that I was getting the Kalmbach until the dude threw it in my trunk when I pulled her on the side. So I was kind of a surprise and a little bit excited at the same time. And I'm definitely curious to see how it works. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button already and you're still with me, please hit the subscribe button. I've got plenty of content to come, all kinds of chicken content. Spring's just about to get underway, so we're really about to get this garden going, and really going to take some steps this year to further our self-sufficiency and own reliability on our own land here. And we don't have that much land. We're only sitting on half acre. My garden area is only like 300 square foot, and then like 100 square foot goes to the chickens. So it's pretty easy. You don't need much land. And I'm going to try to show you guys. I'm going to be doing some container growing, so no matter what kind of space you've got, we can make some stuff work. So I look forward to doing any kind of journeying with you. I'm starting to ramble on, so I'm going to cut it off here. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next time.